What are the best ways to monetize a niche audience? How do you turn your sent emails into amazing social content? And what's the key to overcoming imposter syndrome? You're about to find out. Welcome to the I Want to Know podcast. Today's episode is a special one because I'm going to share with you something typically only my paid clients get to see. Every month, my clients are invited to join me for a group coaching call that I call a jam session. On those calls, I answer their questions and help them solve specific challenges in their business. What you're about to hear in today's episode are 6 excerpts from a recent jam session with questions clients asked me and my answers. To learn more about how I can help you with your business, go to joshspector.com/group coaching. Now, let's get to the first question. Let's start with a question that's right in my wheelhouse. Shane Whaley wanted some advice about how to better monetize his niche community and newsletter. Here's what I told him. Hi, Shane. You there?
Hi. Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Very excited to be here. Yeah, so I'm at a bit of a crossroads. So this started as a hobby called Spybrary. I interview authors, fans, TV shows, that kind of thing. And it really grew in that 7.5 years. So we have a community of 4,000, very active, 5,000 downloads per episode. And just a few moments ago, not to brag, 'cause I'm still shell-shocked, I got approval to interview Gary Oldman on Monday.
Oh, wow.
Because he's in the Apple TV shows.
Yeah.
So the site's got the credibility. I have 5,000 subscribers on my email list because I had this lead magnet, which was the top 125 spy writers ranked with suggestions, but I don't really know what to send them. Earlier this year, I started doing a month. Here's the new spy books that are coming up, create lists. But then I got slapped by Amazon because they said, you can't put an affiliate link in an email. It has to be on the website. Also, they've made all these draconian rules. You can't use the images or and
Well, that's easy to fix. Just put it on your website and have the email newsletter just link to the page on your website.
Yeah, which is fine now because I'm on a career break. But beforehand, I had a full-time job, so it was like creating all the extra work that would create. But I guess that's where I can spend some time investing on that. Maybe try that.
Yeah, and it shouldn't take that. It shouldn't. I mean, because you had to do before you were doing it anyway, or had to do it in the email, right?
Just add the affiliate link paste it into the email under each book, and
you can do the same thing. Paste it into your website. Shouldn't take that much more time.
No, that's probably the kick up the rear I need. So, because the open rate was getting, 65% rate. So I'm surprised at a monthly newsletter because, like you, I'm a fan of higher frequency newsletters.
Yeah. How many recommendations were you sharing?
It's about 8 per email.
Split. Go weekly. Do 2 per email.
Yeah. Okay.
Or do twice a month. Same amount of work, just more frequency, right? Or do it twice a month and do 4 each time or something like that.
Yeah. And the other idea I had was there's a service out there called BookBub. And what they do is send out very cheap emails for the same thing. And I'm like, well, how are they doing that? Because they're able to get those deals direct with Amazon. So they're getting they must be getting a feed from somewhere or an API, I imagine, to do that. But that's another idea I had, where instead of it being, every 2 weeks, every month, it could be, if there's 2 new spy books available, that 99 cents, out goes the email.
And because I think in your question, are you more trying to figure out what to send in your emails, or are you trying to figure out how to monetize this thing?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, really, because I think the way I can monetize it is through Amazon, or if it's big enough, maybe a publisher will say, we'll want to put an ad. I can see that happening as we grow. But yeah, it was like what to put in the newsletter. What would people find?
So I guess there's kind of overlap here. So the first thing I would do that to me is an absolute no-brainer is independent authors, or even I guess signed authors, whatever, should be able to buy ads essentially in your newsletter to promote their book. If I wrote a spy novel, what's it worth to me to get it sent to 5,000 spy novel readers, especially if it's independently published? It's probably worth a lot. Even though they don't have huge budgets, they don't have a way to reach people. Yeah. And because you have such a specific niche, like I would in every, so for example, let's say you did go to weekly, just hypothetically, and you do 2 recommendations a week, I would have a 3rd paid recommendation sponsor. Yeah. So you can tell them like, look, every week I email 5,000 people. You're going to be one of the 3 books recommended. And let's say, again, I don't know what you could charge for it, but let's say you charged $500. Again, like those are people that it's hard to reach that audience, right? So you could probably even charge more, but certainly if it performed well, you're going to be able to see. But let's say you charge $500. Well, now just from that, you're making $2,000 a month. And in terms of finding people to buy it, my guess is it's not that hard to find independent authors in communities and whatever that are writing spy books. And a lot of them, by the way, are maybe subscribed to your newsletter.
Yeah, and we have so many of those in the community that I had to do it. Okay, authors, you can only post your new book once a month, the first day of every month. So it was all in one thread. So yeah, they're on there.
So to me, that's the easiest, most obvious, like flip a switch and start making money.
Got it.
Really easy. The other thing is, an overall deal with a publisher, I don't know that you need to be bigger, right? Those publishers got to figure out, for them, 500, like the same math works. So I think you could certainly probably have some of those conversations, and that could be individual spots too, or a sort of overall, like ideally you'd go to a publisher who publishes a bunch of sort of spy books and go to them and say, hey, let's do a 3-month, let's do a 6-month deal.
Yes.
And you can just cycle through whatever books you guys will own a spot. You can also have a, call up like the premier sponsor. You can figure out whatever you want to do, but that will be, trying to get one longer term deal as opposed to sort of selling a bunch of one-off ads would be better for you. The other idea I had for you is I wonder if you could do this would be selling to your audience, but could you do like a book of the month subscription where they pay you X amount a month, I don't know, $50 a month. And every month you send them a book you recommend. And it's a surprise. It's it's a whatever, something kind of off the radar. And you make the difference between what they're paying and the price of the book. But also if you have enough people on that, you could probably even go to those authors and be like, hey, I've got 100 people that I can send your book to. You give me 100 free copies, give me 100 copies at off, whatever, and it's going to drive word of mouth for you. So you might not even have to pay for the books, and that's a nice recurring revenue stream. And then the last one I was going to say here is you could come up with some sort. My guess is a lot of the people on your list are also writers or want to be writers. So you could come up with some sort of educational product that they pay for. Maybe it's a recurring subscription, maybe it's a one-off course. You don't have to necessarily teach it. You could bring in authors to talk about how to write spy novels. My guess is there's a decent portion of your audience that wants that. And that would be another sort of relatively easy way to monetize.
No, I like that. There's some great ideas. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. But it's a great niche and a great name. So
thank
a lot
you.
of potential. Yeah. Good job.
Big fan of your work, Josh, and your emails.
Thank you. Yeah. It's nice to talk to you. In my next jam session excerpt, I reveal one of the more unique places to find content ideas in your sent email folder. Here's how that works. So just for some quick backstory, Cheryl had seen, I can't remember if I posted on social or talked about it in one of these sessions. I said that, your sent email folder is like a fountain of social content ideas, because in your emails are advice that you've given to people, questions you've answered for people, all that kind of stuff. So she had emailed and was wondering like, oh, could I show some examples of sent emails that could become social content? So I am going to share my screen here, and I pulled up a couple just to give you an idea of how that could work. And again, everybody's email is obviously going to be different. So I have a lot of people asking me for advice, but you probably have people asking you how to do things, or you're telling people how to do things in your emails as well. So everybody can see this, I assume. It's my inbox. Yeah. Okay. So I want to just show you two examples here. So this was someone who had replied to my newsletter. So this was my newsletter. She had replied and was saying, she has a similar newsletter. It's short, a variety of links. She's noticed that people most often click the links to her marketing ideas, but they most often respond and say something to her about the fun stuff, recommendations she makes, museums and recipes, etc. So she's really just sort of sharing some of her experience. My reply to her was that totally makes sense. The more personal it is, the more likely the response. So if I'm going through my sent emails and I see this is a potential social post, right? This concept. Now I can build off of that. This is a very short one-liner. So I could just do the one-liner of like, the more personal your email is, the more likely people will respond to it. But also I could build into it. I could say, oh, one of my readers from my newsletter told me that she gets a lot of people click her marketing links, but they respond to the other stuff. Like, this is the core. So when you're looking at your emails potentially for social content, this is the core nugget of an idea that's just a sort of throwaway comment prompted by an email I got from someone that could easily be expanded into a social post. Another example, this is someone, Lou, who has actually recently become a client and reached out to me, and we were having a back and forth about sort of his situation. And so I do this a lot of times in emails. I will give people, this is before he became a client, by the way. So I will sort of give people extensive answers to things and suggestions. And I do that for a couple reasons. Number one is it's helpful and I like to help people and all of that, right? Number two is I know this is somebody who potentially could become a client. And if I can, this is sort of a way for me to kind of nudge him over and show the degree to which that I can help him. You know, if I give him a really valuable free response to his email, he's likely going to wonder, well, wow, how much help could I get if I actually became a client? But the third reason is I know that the time that I'm spending doing this to him is also creating social content. So I kind of know I'm going to repurpose a version of this, right? So I'm using inbound emails I get almost as prompts to create social content and then checking a lot of boxes, right? So this is a more extensive email, but this easily could be adapted. Again, I could remove the specifics and, you know, there's no one right way to do a newsletter, but the key is to answer these 4 questions. I could leave out the part that's specific to him and just say, what's your goal? What do you need to reach? Blah, 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 right? This is a social post that basically writes itself. Now, the other thing is this is something that I have said before. So this is the other thing. I'm sort of using social posts to answer questions. Like I know that this is a process and a thing that I've suggested before. But so those are 2 examples of ways that you can turn sent emails into social posts. And again, it will be different for everyone. But if you go through your sent folder, I'm sure you will find stuff in there, even if it's just a little nugget of an idea that you're like, oh, I could turn this into something. So there you go. Thanks for the question, Cheryl, whenever you see this. Ever wonder what to ask when you survey your newsletter or podcast audience? Here's what I told Marek Jankowski to ask his audience in order to learn more about what they want and need. Hey, Marek, how's it going?
Not bad, thank you. I'm preparing a survey for my podcast listeners and newsletter subscribers, and I'd like to find out more about them and their needs to decide what products to create next. So I have 2 questions basically. One, questions would you recommend asking people in a survey to find out about their needs and what are they going to pay for? And the second question is, what would you do? What strategies would you use to encourage as many people as possible to take part in the survey?
Okay, good questions. So first, let me ask you, remind me who your audience is and what you help them do.
Solopreneurs, freelancers, experts, and I help them get clients. I help them stop chasing clients and start attracting clients.
Okay. So the first thing I would say, and I think when you had emailed your question, I think you had a reference of one of the things you wanted to figure out also is sort of what are they willing, I think you used the phrase willing to spend on products, right? Which everybody always wants to know pricing, whatever. And so my advice about that is I would be very careful with willing to spend questions. And I say that not because there's anything wrong with asking them, but because they're not accurate, right? So I think a lot of times it can be whatever information you get can be very misleading, right? It can be misleading in terms of like they say, oh, I'm willing to spend $100. But the truth is if they actually saw the thing presented in the right way, presented with social proof, like, oh, suddenly it seems worth $1,000. Or it could be misleading the other way, right? Where they say I'd be willing to spend $100 and then push comes to shove, they're actually not willing to spend $100. So in general, I'm not a huge fan of those kind of questions just because I don't think that the information you get is all that valuable or all that reliable, because I think it's so context dependent. What I do think you could do though, is you could ask, so sometimes in discovery calls, I have asked people like, you know, one of the questions I might ask people is like, have you ever paid for any content creation training, right? Courses, books, anything, right? So that can identify, and if so, like, what was it? So that can give me some idea of like, okay, these are people who spend money. These are the kind of things that they buy, which is based on previous actions, which is not 100% what you're doing, but it can really be a better indicator than just in this hypothetical world, like, you know, what would you be willing to spend? So that is one thing. And I also think it's really helpful for you to know, right? Because it gives you a sense of like, what else are they buying? You know, whatever, how invested are they in solving this, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is there's nothing wrong with doing surveys, and I think surveys can be really helpful. It's possible, though, you would get more from 10 one-on-one conversations than you would 100 people answering your survey. So it's not an either or. I'm not saying not to do a survey, but I would consider maybe in addition to a survey, getting 10 people to get on a Zoom call with you for 15 minutes. And you'll really, I have found that I get more out of that than I do from a survey. If you're going to do
I thought about the survey because I have 14,000 newsletter subscribers and I don't know, quite a few listeners. So for me, the survey is the first step. And in the survey, I plan to ask the last question. If you agree for me to contact you and find out more, please leave your contact details. So it's the next step, but the survey is like, the filter to find the best people.
So that's good. And again, I'm not saying not to do it, but I'm going to give you a couple different things to sort of keep in mind here, right? So number one, the only results you get from a survey are the opinions of people who are willing to answer the survey. That's not everybody, right? Like not only is it not everybody, but it's also not necessarily the buyers, right? So it just means your information, no matter how many people answer the survey, your information is valuable, but is also always going to be slightly skewed because it's only the people who are willing to, so for example, people who answer the survey might say, I'd pay $100, but the people who didn't answer the survey might only pay $20 or might pay $500 because they're busy and they don't care about answering your survey, right? So that's why like anything you do survey-based, you have to take with a grain of salt. The other thing in terms of, and again, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. It's a good idea. And you will be able to surface some people. But the difference between someone getting a survey where everybody is invited to, if they want to take time with you to have a one-on-one conversation, and the difference between you identifying some specific people in your audience that you're like, this person, you can even look at their LinkedIn profiles, you can figure out how you do it, but you're like, this is my ideal buyer. I'm going to reach out to them individually and say, hey, you match up with exactly the type of person I'm trying to serve. I'd love to know more about your needs and your whatever. It's just different, right? It's just different. So again, doesn't mean you shouldn't do the survey. It doesn't mean you can't pull people from there, but just keep in mind that like anything, like it's going to be slightly skewed. The other thing is when you're talking about sort of like, when you're asking, first of all the questions in the survey should be open-ended because you want to see what words people use. Try not to do many multiple choice because that skews your answers as well. And also the language they use can help you with your copy. So for example, you might always be thinking in terms of like, I help people get clients, but all of them are talking about it as customers or buyers or whatever, right? So if it's open-ended, you can get a sense of the language that they use. The other thing I would say is I wouldn't even necessarily think about it or talk about it or ask about it in the context of products, but rather what problems are they trying to solve? What frustrates them? It's skewed. Again, it sort of skews the results, right? Like, so would you be interested in a product that does X versus do you have problem X that you're trying to solve? It's subtle, but it's different, right? Because, they might say like, oh, I don't, as soon as they hear product, they think in terms of like, would I want to buy that thing versus do I need to solve that problem? Right. So again, subtle thing, but I think that's where I would sort of skew the questions. You're trying to figure out like, what are their problems? What do they really need help with? What's really frustrating them? What are they investing in? All that kind of stuff. And then you can kind of create based on that information. And then the last part here is in terms of how do you get people to participate? One thing you can do is you could come up with, depending what you're doing, right? You could come up with sort of some sort of free resource, some sort of something to give anyone who participates, right? So, and it could be just repurposed content. Oh, I put together this one page masterclass on blah, blah, blah. Or, could be do you want a list of the 10 books that I think everyone should read if they want to get more clients or whatever? Something simple and easy that they're like, oh yeah, like that, it's going to take me 30 seconds to do this survey. It's a little extra incentive. Speaking of which, when you reference the survey, reference how quick and easy it is for them to do. So it's a 3-question survey. It's a 1-minute survey. Put that time constraint in there so that they know this is not a big commitment on my part. And so when you combine that with, thanks so much for your interest in whatever, if you take 30 seconds to answer these 5 questions, I'll give you my 10 most recommended books for blah, 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 right? That's going to get a lot more people than just, hey, will you do my survey? And, the reason for them to do the survey should never be to do you a favor, right? It should always be like, you appreciate it and it is a favor, but you're also going to sort of give them something. And the other thing, some people do this, people do a giveaway, right? I'm going to, if you do the survey, you're entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card or whatever. I'm not going to get into the legalities of any of that, but people do it all the time, but some sort of incentive for them to do it. Maybe if it's, another thing you could do is if it's podcast listeners, maybe you do a secret, like, bonus episode of the podcast that's only available to people who fill out the survey, which is actually a really interesting thing to do, because that incentive is only going to align with the people that are really interested in your survey. Really interested in your podcast. So they're probably your ideal clients, ideal buyers. And the other thing is, if you did that, is it could be an ongoing thing that you're always promoting, right? So there's always this secret episode that you recorded once. It's almost like a lead magnet. I know people love when I talk about lead magnets, but that would be interesting. And that survey is getting you information on every new person that comes into the podcast, and here's the promo and wants the new thing. Or it goes in your newsletter, welcome email, or any of that kind of stuff. So does that all make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Great. Cool. You're welcome. Thanks. Really good question.
Josh, before you jump to the next one, Janice was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about your thoughts about doing a individual call versus a survey and why you think that's better.
I think that generally speaking, you will get more out of the person than a survey. Also, obviously, you get less in terms of scale, but you can really pick sort of your ideal people. I just think it's deeper. I'm looking here to see, hold on. I think I might have showed this before. I did when I was sort of shifting the focus of my business. Yeah, here. I did a bunch of these when I was sort of repositioning, shifting to this focus on content strategy and getting clients from content. And I did a bunch of them to sort of see, basically I was testing to see if my theory was right. My theory was lots of businesses and people are publishing content, but they're not getting actual results from it in terms of leads and clients and sales. So these are the questions that I asked people, and I identified very specifically who I wanted to talk to. So I would, before we even got on a call, I would ask them, are you regularly publishing content? Now I'm trying to remember what the test questions were. Are you regularly publishing content? Are you looking for, with the idea of getting clients from it? Do you have an established offer, right? Like, I didn't want people that were just starting out. I wanted people that were already had a business, already had clients, were already publishing content, but they just weren't really getting results from that content. So these are the questions that I asked them, right? So we hopped on Zoom. It was a 15-minute call. Say, can I record this? Who's your company's target customer? Where do you currently publish content? I was trying to get background on sort of what they're doing. Are you doing anything with email? What do you hope to get out of the content you publish? So these were sort of background questions. Then this starts to get into like, what do they want, right? What are they trying to accomplish, right? Another way of like, what's your process? Here's the question that I referenced before. Have you ever done any content creation training? If it was helpful, what made it helpful? How do you track the results that you get from your content? Then this is a key question that I always recommend you ask on a scale of 1 to 10, and then you have them rate the performance of whatever it is you would help them with, right? So for me, if someone said, oh, my content's a 10, we're getting tons of business results and leads and clients, like good for them, but they're probably not going to be a customer of mine. Hey, they don't have a problem, right? If they were like, oh, it's a 1 or a 2, then that's a problem. Then I would ask, why isn't that rating higher or lower? So when you ask, why isn't that rating higher? They're literally going to tell you, these are exactly the things that I'm struggling with that are holding me back. And when you ask, why isn't that lower? They're going to tell you, these are the things that I don't have a problem with, that I think I'm doing a good job with. And what's great about this part, how they answer this doesn't actually matter all that much, because whether they say it's a 7 or it's a 4, it tells me something, but it doesn't really matter. But even if they said, let's say an 8, right? And they feel like it's going pretty well. When I say, why isn't that rating higher? They're now telling me the things that they still have problems, even though it's an 8. So if they say, well, I'm at an 8, it would be a 10 if these things happen. Now they're setting me up to be like, well, I can help you make those things happen. Do you do any paid promotion? This is sort of another way of asking, like, how invested are they in this? What do you find the most frustrating thing or biggest challenge when it comes to content marketing? So this is the example, Merrick, of what I'm talking about, of like, I want to hear what their problems are. Like, not do you want this product, but like, what is annoying you? What are you trying to figure out? and then just anything else you think would be helpful for me to know. In theory, you could do that in a survey, but a survey is not a conversation. So again, I'm not anti-survey. I've done surveys as well, but I think you do 10 of those conversations with your ideal potential buyers, you are going to learn so much more than you will just from a 100 questions survey. The next jam session excerpt I have for you is all about discounts. Here's how I told Jared Barnes he should approach discounting his offers, or what to do instead of offering a discount.
Hi, Josh.
Hey, Jared. How's it going?
Great. Thanks again for taking the time for my question. So my question revolves around discounts. And in September, I launched a new class on plant growth strategies. I educate horticulturists, and I launched it with a membership. And the idea with the membership is very similar to skill sessions. 6 lectures you get from me, 6 Q&A sessions as well too. And I priced that class similar to the class that I had previously. It was $49, but the first class I did a $20 discount on it. This class, I decided to do an experiment where I did not discount it at all, but then I did discount the membership, trying to encourage people to sort of go towards that membership. And, this is a class that I developed because I did surveys, having conversations with colleagues in the industry. They were saying, we want to learn more about this plant growth strategy concept that you talk about in lectures you give, around the country. And so I thought I had something that, my customer base and my subscribers were really going to gravitate towards, but I didn't get a lot of sales in the class. I got a few people to take memberships, but not a lot of sales in the class. But then a nursery found out that I was offering this class, and I said, well, just to make an incentivize, I'll tack on a $10 discount. And so it's $39. And I ended up selling 3 times as many classes through that nursery, sending out an email blast saying that I was doing it. I'd written an article for them, but it just really surprised me because, I've been investing a lot of time developing this subscriber list, communicating value. I get all these people who say, I love your newsletter, et cetera. And it just really surprised me again that more of my own subscribers, even though they say that this type of material is what they want, ecological horticulture, naturalistic planting, that I just didn't get more interest in that. And so I wanted to sort of tease that out more with you, as well as ask the question, how do you think about discounts? I know that there's a cycle effect there where you do discounts to kind of encourage people to buy for limited time, but then other people think, no, you shouldn't do discounts because then you start training your customers into people buying from you that they're coming. So what is your thoughts about all that?
So I have a bunch of thoughts about this, and I think I'll get to the discount part last. So you have 3,000 people on your list. How many of them have bought stuff from you before, right? Because it's a new product, but it's not a new, you've sold other stuff to them. So
Correct.
What percentage of your list do you think is bought?
Basically about 1%.
And so, and of those, are a lot of them members who would get this new course anyway?
No. The way I did the first course, it was on seed starting, and the first course was basically just independent. I was testing the waters. And so now I decided to make it more robust and again, offer with a membership. But not a lot, only 8 people on my list bought this new class. But then again, I had 24 people from this nursery email list that bought this other.
So the first thing is unrelated to your list, do more stuff with that nursery and go find more nurseries. Because clearly it works, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is, as far as the trust point, keep in mind that you're selling a pretty low price product. So the lower the price, the less trust is required. So I think you're looking at it and you're going I don't understand. These people from this nursery who don't even know who I am are buying. Do you know how big their list is?
I don't know, but I do know I do know that I've looked at other people who have these online horticulture classes, and my prices I feel are comparable, if not maybe a little bit towards that upper end of value there. So I did your exercise where you go through and look at your competition.
Yeah. So again, but no matter, even if it's comparable to what that market is, it's still not a huge investment, right? So the quote unquote risk that someone who doesn't know you, and they do know the nursery, right? So that's the other thing. There is implied social proof and credibility that's coming to you from the nursery because they trust the nursery and the nursery is recommending you. So that's another thing to keep in mind, right? It's not cold. They didn't see some random Facebook ad and who the hell is this guy? if they're on a nursery email list, they're pretty connected to the nurse. Like they trust the nursery, they buy from the nursery, they whatever, right?
Yeah.
So all of that credibility was getting transferred onto, and I don't know how often the nursery is promoting courses or anything like that, but they may not be, it may be a relatively new thing. So there's some newness there too. And they're like, oh, I didn't even know I could take a class in this and whatever. So I'm not particularly shocked that that performed well. And that's why my first instinct is do more with them, find more nurseries. You may have uncovered something good here in terms of a source of a bunch of other stuff. As far as your own list, I think there's a couple things. So one is, you have 3,000 people on your list. What's a typical, like how many, when you were promoting this, how many people do you think actually saw it? Because 3,000 didn't, because you never have 100% open rate and whatever, right?
I need to go back and look at that to see how many people.
I would look at how many people opened those emails, and I would look at how many people actually clicked to the sales page or whatever. Because anyone that didn't click to the sales page was never actually a potential buyer. If they weren't interested enough to even learn more about it, they weren't a potential buyer. So your actual conversion rate, like you're looking at it based on 3,000 people and you're going, well, I actually, like when I look at they're two separate problems, right? So I look at like how many people hit this sales page and how many of them actually converted. That's about sort of the sales page and people who are curious or interested in it, right? If I didn't get people to the sales page, that's a different problem because it wasn't compelling to them. So maybe I didn't present it well in the emails. Maybe it's misaligned with what they want. But I think digging deeper into the numbers so you can pull apart like what actually happened here. Did I have trouble getting people to the sales page? Did I have trouble converting on the sales page? Like, learning more about that will help. As far as discounts go, in general, I'm not a huge fan of discounts. I'll do them occasionally. I do sort of fall into that camp that I think if you start discounting all the time, I think it does a couple things. Number one, I think it sort of cheapens the perception of your brand and value. Like unless that you're strategically going that way, right? Emily will know this because she worked with me at the Academy and we were partners with JCPenney. And JCPenney brought in like a new marketing team and their business almost completely went under because they stopped doing discounts and then discovered that like the whole JCPenney thing was people feeling like they're getting a deal. Even if the prices were the same, they wanted to see that it was like a discount. So unless you're building a brand or a company or discount, like you are a discounter and that's part of the thing, then it's fine. But if you're not, I don't think in general it's super helpful. What I would do, what I did with the skill sessions model when I was selling them individually, when I put out a new one for sale individually, I would do 50% off for the first week. So it was almost like an introductory price as opposed to a discount. So I would say like, they're normally whatever it was, $50, but if you get it this week, the launch price is $25. So that's kind of a discount, but it sort of feels different. It feels less random. Like there's a reason for it, right? Versus going like, oh, and there's a discount because I said there was a discount, right?
Yeah.
So some of it is the language you use. So offering discounts that you frame as launch price, introductory offer, founding, whatever, as opposed to saying discount, right? And having a hard sort of end date that like, yeah, it's at this price until for 1 week and then it's not. The other thing that I would do with the individual sales is instead of discounting the membership, when someone bought, I would then thanks for buying this individual session. If you like it and want to upgrade to a full membership, I will refund your initial purchase.
Yeah.
So I like that better than the discount. And again, I'm talking to people who bought, right? And at that point, they're already invested.
Yes.
So they bought it, they watched the thing, they go, I spent $25 on this. To get my $25 back and just upgrade to the thing. So that's how I did it. It's not the only way to do it, but that's how I like doing it because I think I don't know that in the moment when they're buying, right? They're like, well, because really what you're doing by discounting the membership, which is not a terrible idea, but I prefer it as sort of an upgrade and upsell that as opposed to like, they're deciding like, do I want to buy this one thing or do I want to buy the membership? Well, if I do the membership, I get the discount. It feels it feels not confusing, but like, whereas the other one, it's like, do you want this thing? And you can get it at this low price for this amount of time. Yes, I want it. Hey, you bought that thing. Now you want to take the next step? Like that kind of thing. But yeah, cool. That all makes sense?
Yeah, it does. Thanks. I really appreciate you explaining your language of the introductory price.
Yeah.
I kind of framed it in my head as a discount, but yes, thank you so much for your thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. The language, and it's a good general note for all sorts of stuff. Like language is so important. And I think a lot of times if you separate it from the business model, right? So like, again, and I've done a lot of this now, repackaging my skill sessions of like, it's not a membership and it's, it's now you become a client and I'm now offering it as group coaching or private coaching. The private coaching is sort of a different thing, but like the group coaching is basically the skill sessions membership, but it's presented differently. And people hear group coaching and they're like, oh, he's going to coach me. And I get access to sort of that versus you hear membership and people are like, I don't want to be a member. I don't like it. It just all sounds different, even though the product isn't actually changed. So I think reminding yourself with everything you do of like, okay, I like this business model. Now let me think about what's the best way to talk about this business model, right? And so you might like doing discounts, but not like using the word discount.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm in the same camp as you. I don't like doing the discounts, but again, free framing it as introductory price. I really like that. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. You're welcome. Temi Adewumi has a newsletter that helps readers choose and use the best software for their business, but she's struggling with how best to describe her niche audience. Here's what I said to her. Hey, Temi.
Hi, Josh.
Oh, there you are. So Temi, give us a little context for what we're looking at and what you want to know.
Okay, so this newsletter is for solopreneurs who are looking to reduce their software costs, especially with the multiple platforms you all use. Like you could be using anywhere from 7 to 10 to 20, and it's a lot of money. So I want the newsletter to point to the subscribers about these are ways you could more effectively use the software you do have. These are software deals you could get in touch with. These are, it could help you save time so that you're not trying to fiddle with the software yourself and get frustrated. And I want to also curate different tips from around the web about how to more efficiently use software tools. So my question is, along with, does this make sense? If our solopreneurs too wide a niche, and should I narrow it down to maybe people who make money, with their expertise, which I'm familiar with?
Yeah, I don't, my instinct is not that it's too wide. It doesn't feel too wide to start. You can always niche down as you go. If you feel, you can it feels like a good place to sort of start and see what you get, because it's not going to scare off any of those people. Like it feels okay to me. And did you want feedback on this email?
Yes, please. Yes,
okay.
please.
So let me ask you a question. Talk me through the sort of goals or purpose of these different elements of this welcome email. So the first one obviously is you're doing that because you want to improve your deliverability. Then you have the little box, which is basically giving them the lead magnet, I assume, that they are getting. Yeah. And what's the goal of the next section?
Okay, so pretty much it's just to introduce, this is the welcome email. So when I guess this is what you get immediately after signing up. So it's a way to kind of familiarize you with what you're going to be receiving over the next couple of weeks. So you're going to get curated tips. You're going to intend to take a major software platform and then compare it against the lesser known brands. Say like Canva versus Speed, for instance. So that Canva, as we know, has increased its price into like humongous amounts. And these are the lesser known options that could give you the same result without a lower fee. So that sort of thing.
So the idea, the purpose it serves here, and then you have a bit about me at the end. Is there a PS on the bottom or is that it?
No, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. So the idea here is basically just to give them some context for what they signed up for and who you are and whatever. And do you feel like in some cases, because of the lead magnet or whatever, they don't know, they need that. They don't necessarily know what they're signing up for?
To be frank, this is completely new. So it's more like I've seen this in every email that you get. It's kind of like it's an intro to maybe a way to forestall buyer's remorse. Like, why did I sign up for yet another email? Oh, so it's a way.
So I love that you said that, and you said like, oh, and I forget the exact phrasing you used, but you were basically like, well, no, that you're using, that, but that you said like, oh, I'm doing this because it's what I see in every other one, and that's actually a reason not to do it. It's not the reason to do it. Right. Okay. So this is my own sort of personal take on things, right? I am a huge believer in trying to do things differently than everyone else does them. Because if you do it the same way everyone else does them, nobody notices it, right? I always say like, you don't stand out by fitting in. right?
Okay.
So the fact that everyone else, this is why my newsletter is like a paragraph.
Ooh.
Nobody else was doing that, right?
Okay.
You know, so it doesn't mean that you have to do that. It doesn't mean there's anything inherently wrong with this, but I think it's a missed opportunity for you to stand out and be like, yeah, I'm not like all those other newsletters that you subscribe to.
Okay.
And it almost doesn't matter what you do. You can think through what you want to do there, but defaulting to like, I'm going to do it this way because this is the way it's done. It doesn't necessarily do it. It's not that it does anything negative for you. It's just maybe a missed opportunity for a positive. It's a missed opportunity to have someone go, wow, this is really different. I'm excited about this.
So what should I do instead? Because when you go sign for an email newsletter, you want to know this is what I'm going to expect in the next couple of weeks.
So here's, Emily, will you scroll back up for a second? So here are my thoughts. And again, there's no one sort of right way to do this. In theory, having the first thing they see be, you know, reply yes to this email, this lets people know that you really want it. You're sort of asking them for a favor right off the bat. So maybe that's good. Maybe it's not, but it's like, what is that for? You know, some of this gets into brand and tone and what you want to set, you know, your sort of story in the beginning and what do they want, right? Thinking through like, what do you actually want people to do when they sign up for this, right? Like there's different things that could happen with the welcome email and sort of what is your goal. So I don't love leading with the like, get it out of your promotions tab, whatever. I would prefer to, you know, even every software platform you choose should either save you time or money, you know, and maybe the newsletter is you, right? I assume like you're setting this up, like this is a personal, you are the brand. It's not like it's a marketing brew or what. I know it has a name, but right. So I would almost write this as if it was a friend, you know, hey, I'm Temi, you know, hey, I'm Temi and I'm thrilled that you're here. Let's start with, this is the thing that I most believe in all my life, and insert some humor, insert some personality, whatever, right? Every software problem you choose should either save you time or money.
Yeah.
If you disagree with that, you're probably in the wrong place. But if you agree with that, here's what's going to happen. So again, you'll find your own tone, but that's the way that I would think about it, because what you're actually trying to do is this is the beginning of a relationship with you.
That's right.
And that's what you want. So I like that you have a bit about me. I like that they're getting to know you. You also want to prompt them to reply to you, right? That's good for deliverability too, right? I'd love to know from you. And maybe you ask them a simple question, right? What's your favorite software that you use right now?
Oh, I would love to know that. Yeah.
Right. So like, or that kind of thing, right? Like they signed up for this, they're interested in software, right? So you want to, I would write this email in a way that you are welcoming them, getting them to have a feel for sort of who you are, to feel your personality, to not feel like it's some AI generated newsletter, right? Like get them to feel a little bit like they know you. Definitely include the like, reply yes to this email. But I think if you do some of the other stuff first, the ask is different. Like, oh, I do want to hear more from her. Like, I do want to make sure that I'm not missing the thing. And let me just show you guys I'll show you my current welcome email, which again, I'm not saying you necessarily need to do this format. It's different for everybody, but it'll show you a little bit of sort of tone, right? So number one, I don't remember if I saw the subject line on yours, but like, let's get you a client today.
Oh.
It's not welcome to the newsletter. It's not something that sounds generic. It's like, yeah, let's make this happen, right? You signed up for a newsletter to learn how to get clients from your content. So here we go, right? Thanks for subscribing. I assume you did because you want to get more clients from your content. So let's not waste any time. Here's basically a lead magnet, even though I don't necessarily talk about it as a lead magnet, but like I'm establishing from a tone and from a whatever, let's not waste any time. Like I'm not going to go through, like, I want to help you, right? You can see it in the subject line. You can see it in the opening. You're like, boom, right? It's a free 1-page Google Doc with 4 strategies. Now I'm shifting into, right, the more I know about your situation, the better I can help you. This is the prompt to reply. So I'd love to know who's your target client, what platform, anything in particular you're trying to figure out at the moment. Happy to help.
They're responding to you, and it's not just move your email from your dump folder.
And look, I don't have that in there. At times I've had it in there. I don't have it in there currently. Like, I'm not saying it's wrong to have it in there, and arguably I should have it in there. Like, this isn't necessarily best practices. So I'm not saying not to do that, but
it's and maybe I'll add it back in at some point or whatever. Happy to help. And then, PS, I also have these coaching offers or whatever. Right. But tonally, when you get this, like what I want people to take away from it is one, I want them to get some value right away. Two, I want them to get the sense that like, I'm really about helping you, that there's a person here, whatever. And three, that I actually care about and I'm interested in them, and want them to reply. So those are the three things that sort of I choose. Doesn't have to be that, but to me, the general note for you would be the more it feels like a personal email from you, I think the better and stronger it is. And then within that personal email, you can say and do and ask for whatever you want.
Okay. Thanks, I'll
right.
do work.
There you go. Thanks, Donna. Taroni Donaldson has one of the most common questions I get asked. How do you promote yourself without feeling like an imposter? My answer may surprise you, and it certainly made him feel a lot better. Here it is. Hey, Taroni.
Hey, how's it going, Josh? How's everybody?
Good.
Hope
Good to
everybody
see you.
good. Definitely great to see you as well. Don't worry about that question because it dawned on me, like after I sent you the info, you have a specific skill session that says create.
Oh yeah, the
products.
product in a day creator.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was reviewing that. The main thing I guess I wanted to know, because listening to everybody, the biggest thing is how do you comfortably keep promoting yourself without feeling like an imposter?
Love it. I mean, I don't love that you feel like an
experience.
imposter, but I love the question because everybody does. Here is the key, and it's just a mindset that you just, put it on a sticky note, remind yourself, whatever, right? You are not promoting yourself. You're offering to help people who want it. It's not selfish, it's selfless, and it's generous. You're not trying to convince anyone to buy anything. You're not trying to trick anyone to buy anything. You just are offering to help. And I think when you remind yourself of that, you feel like an imposter because you feel like you're asking people to do you a favor. The truth is you're offering to do a favor for someone else, even if they're paying. You can't make anybody do anything anyway, right? So there's nothing about feeling like you don't have, and again, I know it's easier said than done, right? But you don't have to, if you just remind yourself that, and if you talk about it in that way, right? If you sell or promote in that way, hey, I'm doing this thing. If you're interested, let me know, right? Here it is. Here it is. If you want it, is really different than buy this thing. I'm the bet. You're not asking anybody to do something for you. You're just saying, here it is. I made this thing. I had this problem. I figured out how to solve it. I've helped people or whatever. And again, the other thing about the imposter syndrome part, like you're not lying in anything that you do. You're not making stuff up. You're not pretending to be something other than you are, right? So there's no reason to feel like an imposter, right? You're not out there going, you're not one of these people that's like, oh, 1 million people have bought from me. You're not saying that. Like, I know you. You're not going to say anything that's not true. So you don't need to worry about like living up to whatever it is. And I think to the extent that, especially that like the separation between your product and yourself is really important. Like, and that extends beyond, again, it's the offering it, like you even phrased it, I think in your email maybe is like, or even when you were talking about it, like, about promoting yourself. You're not promoting yourself. You're offering a thing. And by the way, if they don't want the thing and they don't buy the thing, it doesn't mean they don't want you. People get wrapped up in sort of, and this is true with social posts, right? If I get a lot of likes on a tweet, it doesn't mean people like me. It means they like that tweet. And if I don't get a lot of likes on a tweet, it doesn't mean they don't like me. It means they don't like that tweet. And to be honest, it doesn't even mean they don't like that tweet. It means they didn't click the like button on that tweet or they didn't see that tweet. And I think pulling all these things apart, right? And understanding that like, that's where it gets weird, right? Like, that's where you start to feel like, well, I don't know, who am I to offer this or say this or whatever. It's like, it's not about you. You're not promoting yourself. You're saying, hey, can, this is a totally weird analogy, right? But it's like, if I hold the door open for somebody, I'm not promoting myself, just holding the door open. I'm just offering to hold the door. I'm just offering to help someone. And that's all you're doing with everything. And I think that to the extent that you can embrace that mindset and remind yourself of it, people pick up on that and they feel that. Like they can sense that. And I think that's why, and you wind up like, this has at least been my experience, that like, I do not I attract an audience that is asshole free. I don't attract assholes. And I think it's because of they can sense that I'm offering to help them. I'm not trying to trick them. I'm not pushing something on them. I'm not trying to pretend to be something I'm not. I'm not making promises of things that I don't believe or any of that stuff. And so again, it's easier said than done, but I think that's the key. It's not you. It's not you. You're just offering to help.
No, I appreciate that because I get torn in the situation of, okay, I'm moving along, I'm doing a good process, but then when you see all these, posts, it seems like it's just a sell thing, but I'm clouding my own mind when I don't need to. I guess just stay in the course. It's like the turtle in the hare. I see everybody telling you do everything in a quick weekend, right?
Yeah.
Like the hare. And then, but the game is won by the turtle, but you have to keep going. But the sense of urgency and everything. And
because they can also pick up on your, people can pick up on your insecurity or your when I talk about what I just said to you, I genuinely believe that. I believe that my intentions are good. I may not always do it right, but my intentions are good. I'm genuinely trying to help people. I genuinely am offering. I'm not trying to push people into doing stuff. And so I think people pick up on that, right? And you, the fact that you even are worried about it means it's not a problem for you. I've heard someone say this before about imposter syndrome and whatever. Like you were actually an imposter, like or you were actually doing bad stuff. It would never cross your mind. Like you couldn't do bad stuff if you tried.
it's cool. Okay.
So
My very, very, very last and quick thing. I really appreciate the books you mentioned last time. You said buy back your time and make time, audio those. In terms of that realm, persuasion, maybe not so much selling, but what would you recommend as a book for that topic?
that is a good question. Emily, does anything come to mind that I've said to you before? I'll tell you something that I just started reading that I'm loving, even though I'm only like 40 pages into it. It's a book called Oversubscribed, which, do you have it?
No, but it's probably by this guy though. It's by
Mike Priestley. Yeah,
Priestley.
Daniel Priestley.
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, really,
Good one.
like I said, I'm only 40 pages into it, but it's really good. It's all about sort of building businesses and things that, there's more demand than there is supply and whatever. Not exactly what you're talking about, but it's a good book. All the Seth Godin stuff, honestly, like anything by Seth Godin is really good. I recommend.
All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. That's a wrap for this week's episode of I Want to Know. What you heard is the tip of the iceberg of how I help my clients. So go to joshspector.com/group coaching to learn more about how I can help you. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon with another episode of I Want to Know.